After securing the CAC, the captains prepared to enter the tournament for the national championship. The players anxiously waited to learn their seeding and where they would rank amongst the best teams in the country.
I guess you can say the selection show was when it was like, all right, it's time to focus on business again.
Once the selection show kind of came around, we were like, okay, this is awesome, but at the same time, we can reminisce on this later after the season's over, and we still have unfinished business ahead of us.
The captains were selected as the number 1 seed in their pod. However, the team cared less about ranking than they did about who they would play next.
Well, being a fan of college basketball, we know that 1 seeds don't really matter anymore. Like, you're in a tournament. Anybody can win.
We didn't think about anything other than who's in our pod, who's in our grouping that first weekend, and what do we need to do to get ready.
Not many athletes can say like they won a conference championship, they're number 1 overall seed in their region for the tournament. I mean, it's crazy, but that selection show was wild. They put Salisbury right in our little section again. It was like, dang, we might have a chance to see them again.
In our region, Salisbury, we were the 1 seed, but Salisbury was in our same bracket, and seeing them at the bottom, we were like, oh my, like.
I guess it was just a good thing that we were hosting, which was cool, to have our home fans behind us. But other than that, we were just happy to see that we were in the tournament and see that we were playing Lycoming.
The first round matchup versus Lycoming ended in a CNU win with a final score of 79-71. Moving on to the round of 32, the captains prepared for an NYU team that reminded them of a team they had already faced this year.
Yeah, when we went through our scouting report the next day after we played Lycoming, Coach K was like, man, this game's simple. We already played this game before. It's Scranton pretty much.
It was very similar in terms of the matchup, so we were ready. And our guys, were prepared and focused against Lycoming. We took care of business. We felt really good about ourselves. We were able to get some rest, turn around and come back against, an NYU team that was just terrific.
It's NCAA basketball time. The captains are in the round of 32, and tonight, Christopher Newport looks for its 19th straight win and a trip to the Sweet 16.
We knew it was going to be a battle. It wasn't enough. It wasn't like we were surprised to play this team because we technically played them before. So, I feel like we were prepared, but instead of a tournament, it's going to be a dogfight.
NYU, big team, but I think a lot of our guys can credit to being small our whole lives, so we weren't really scared. It was just like, all right, just how are we going to attack these guys? They were beasts. They were rebounding the ball well. I remember I tried to go in for a box out as hard as I could, and the dude didn't move. So I was like, man, we're going to have to figure something else out to try to win this. We got down 8-0. We was like, oh, man, don't let this be the end of the road. Coach K called a timeout, got us together.
NYU was not going to go away. And we had a game plan that was a little risky because we felt like we were overmatched inside. And so we made some adjustments and did some things that were a little unique to us. And our guys just bought in. They executed our game plan to perfection. They had great trust in each other, and they stuck with it. We got down 8-0. They stuck with it. I think the play of that game is Hunter Weatherall's first basket, because if he doesn't hit that 2-point shot, he shoots a pull-up from about 18 feet. We're down 8-0. If he doesn't hit that one, I didn't know if we were ever going to score.
We got our first bucket, and we realized, all right, these guys are human. They're going to mess up. We just got to find out which way they can mess up the most. We realized that we could win this thing.
They punched us in the mouth. We kind of fell back a little bit, but we stuck our ground and we started to fight back like normally how we usually do. Play defense, try to score the ball. We did all we can.
And then the second half, last like 6-7 minutes, Coach K every time in the huddle was like, man, get the ball to Marcus. ISO, get those guys in foul trouble. Marcus, go to hoop every single time. You're the best player on the court. Like, don't let nobody else tell you any different. Don't let nobody else show you any different. Like, you're the one who's like, you're the guy. Go prove it. Marcus, like, he switched gears. Like, I've never seen him play like that ever in my life. And I think he had like 16 points in the last 6 or 7 minutes, which is unbelievable. And he really carried us to that win. Yeah, recent conversations with Coach K, like, I think we all agree the hardest game of the year. And for us to win that was a huge accomplishment.
And the game is over. And the Captains advance. They survive NYU tonight. And they win 67-64. And CNU will go to the Sweet 16 as they win their 19th straight game.
To kind of see knowing our game plan was working, that we wanted to pressure them all game, knowing that later on in the second half that they were going to start missing those shots was pretty cool.
After earning a victory against NYU, the team moved on to the Sweet 16. But despite being a number 1 seed in the tournament, the Captains still had to travel almost 600 miles to Oswego, New York.
I was completely taken aback because the guys were mad. I mean, they were angry.
When they first announced that, we was pissed off. It was like we earned the right to get that number 1 spot.
And they felt like we earned this. We earned the right to host. We want to play at home. And an injustice has been done. And we met for a long time that night. And we had to really work through what the positives were. And the guys ultimately came around. They ultimately, I think, started to understand maybe it's a little bit bigger than what they thought, and then by the next day we were able to embrace that as an opportunity for us, not in any way as a negative.
In the Sweet 16 matchup against Keene State, CNU flew past the Owls 74-62. Just like that, the Captains were in the Elite Eight for only the second time in school history. In their Elite Eight game, CNU took on national powerhouse Worcester. The Captains knew their opponent would be a challenge and came in as focused as ever.
We're not going to take any team lightly. We don't care about your history at all. Like, your history ultimately doesn't matter because you got to do what you got to do right now in the moment. And they didn't, and we did.
We were able to watch them the day before play. And we were like, whoa, we really got our hands full. They got a couple really good players that we were going to have to prepare for. But once that buzzer sounded and the game was on, we were really ready to play.
The Captains cruised past Worcester with a comfortable 20-point win. The Captains had gone farther than any team before them, reaching the first Final Four in program history.
Yeah. Oh man, knowing that we had made it this far in like the eyes of the rest of our conference and the eyes of really a lot of the other Division III teams on the East Coast were on us, it was really awesome. Knowing that we had lasted longer than anyone else and that we had the opportunity to still play with each other and with our seniors, it was really special.
After traveling all the way to upstate New York, the Captains wouldn't have to go far for the Final Four in Salem, Virginia, just 4 hours away from CNU. The week leading up to Salem was filled with awards, ceremonies, and celebrations held by the NCAA. Despite all the noise, the Captains knew the focus had to be on the game against St. Thomas.
From getting to the hotel and seeing NCAA Final Four in our hotel keys, to practicing at Salem, the banquet at Salem Civic Center, we just try to take it all in as much as we can, and I feel like we just took advantage of it. And me personally, I was just looking around like, hey, it's kind of a big stage now. It's like, so for Division III, this is like the biggest stage. Like, in one game, you would be on national television.
I had never been to the Final Four, and there's so many distractions and there's so many things off the court that are different than what you normally have faced up until that point that none of us knew. I think the bigness of the stage and that game with all of those distractions around it was something none of us had ever been a part of before. And so we didn't know exactly how to handle that. And that certainly affected our play, I thought, a little bit.
What we got? Push up. All right, let's go, low. Bring it down. Okay. What you got, low?
The captains had prepared and waited all season for the game against St. Thomas, but they hadn't prepared to wait even longer. Playing in the second game of the Final Four, the captains were forced to wait in the locker room for an extra half hour.
We knew that the schedule was going to be a little different, but we didn't expect to wait in the locker room about 25-plus minutes more than usual.
The extra time, like they gave us, to kind of put more pressure on us. I feel it's a little more antsy. But I feel like, some of us, we started thinking about it a little more. Like, you never had that much time just to sit in a locker room or in a hallway and just think about, like, God dang, we're about to play in the Final Four.
But I don't think that really defined the game. I just don't think we were mentally clicking that day and improved. We were physically ready. We had the scout down to a T. We executed it down to a T. St. Thomas has had more players that made more plays, and that showed with the scoreboard.
The lights were pretty bright that game, so to speak. There were a lot of things that we weren't really used to regarding our routine and stuff like that. Being a young team definitely didn't do us any favors, I would say.
There's only one option. Be the best you today. That's right. It's time to go handle business. Do your job. Be the best you today. You only get one shot.
The final score of the Benedict 60 Orange Park, Florida, number 33, Arthur
I know myself, I had a couple fouls early, so it kind of put me out, and then the team's like, I'm just like sitting there watching them, and they're just like, they're fighting back. Like, they're doing all they can. Tim and Aaron go on this little run together, and they're trying to put the team on their back. And they pretty much did put the team on their back and like kind of like carried us through the end of that first half. But it's hard because like we feel like we want to run, and then bang, they hit a shot or get an and one or something like that. Then we get a stop, or then they force a turnover or get a stop, then they score again. And then it might flip roles again. We might actually get some stops and score and come back, get their lead closer, like trim down. So, it was frustrating. Being on the court and just sitting and watching is just frustrating. It's like you get so close and then bang, they do it again. Score about 5 straight points. Kind of chip it away again. Boom, they score 5 to 7 more straight points. It's just like it was just frustrating the whole entire first half a little bit.
Despite fighting back, the captains ended the first half, down 33-25, looking for answers.
And doing it one-on-one and not helping each other isn't how we got here. And that's what we're seeing a lot about here. We're not seeing each other help each other on defense. And we're seeing a lot of jack threes. We're not getting together. We're not setting up our cuts. We're not coming together. We're not coming off hard. They're packed in. So we need to set it up, get it in there, and go through their chest. We're not going to be able to dribble around on the outside and wait for them to give it to us. We got to go take it. That's on the board before we start the game. We got to go take it. And we're looking real complacent, dribbling around on the outside. We're looking real complacent, not helping each other. We're looking real complacent, not getting up there and putting pressure on your man So you can't help your brothers. They're setting good screens. They're getting open. Look into yourselves and see what you can do to help each other out. That's enough of me this, me that. Guys come to the bench, me this, me that. It's us. Us is how we got here, and us is how we're gonna keep going. So let's get together, play offense together, play defense together, and let's win together. That's the only way it's gonna get done. Enough hero plays.
But in the end, it wasn't enough, as CNU fell to St. Thomas 62-66. The season was over.
Congratulations to St. Thomas, who now advances to the 2016 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball National Championship game tomorrow at 6 p.m. right here in the Salem Civic Center. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to congratulate the Christopher Newport University captains.
Especially when we realized that we weren't going to win, it was heartbreaking, really, especially watching the reactions with Ben and Hunter and Connor. Seeing them and knowing that their legacy was over and that was their last game that they were going to play it's pretty tough to see. But it was comforting in the fact that knowing that they had done everything that you could ask for out of your seniors.
Yeah, that was tough. Much like, I hadn't prepared anything. I didn't have any idea what I was going to say walking into that locker room. I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't know how the guys were going to respond. And I had no idea what I was going to say. I mean, I'm not one to prepare for losing. So I didn't expect it, and I didn't know what to say. But I think we all just kind of spent a little time together in that moment. And, pretty quickly, as I said before, we didn't spend any time this year reflecting upon what we had accomplished. It just wasn't something that we spent our time doing. We all pushed it off and said, when this thing's over, we'll look back. And, for a brief moment in that locker room there, we looked back just for a minute at some of the things that we had accomplished. And maybe for the first time, some of those guys realized, wow, this was really special. Like, winning or losing this game is not really that important in the grand scheme of things. This journey was amazing, and we're going to remember it for the rest of our lives, and we're going to be connected as brothers because of it for the rest of our lives. And so I know it was tough in that locker room for those guys to have come so close and not prevailed, and for our seniors to finally call it an ending, but to have gotten that far and to have enjoyed the process and the journey that much is something very, very few teams at any level get to experience. And I was proud to be in that locker room with those guys.
A historic season had come to a close. The captains had their most successful season in program history. They had gone 30-2, won the CAC championship, and reached the Final Four, and had become a team worthy of filling the empty frame in the locker room.
We have one more picture to take. Once we take that picture, we'll be ready to frame it.
I've been looking at that empty frame for 4 years, and not only is our picture going to be in there, but we're going to be the only one who says Final Four. And out of the decades of Christopher Newport basketball, to say that you were on the best team and you were a part of it, I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to remember that every time I look at my ring, every time I come back and see Christopher Newport basketball. Well, hopefully by then they're going to win a national championship. But every time I look up in the gym in the Freedman Center and see our banner, 2016 Final Four, it's going to get to relive it all over again.
The 2015-2016 CNU men's basketball team will go down as one of the greatest to ever play Christopher Newport University. But for the team, it won't be the picture in the frame, the banners in the gym, or the rings that they will cherish the most. It will be the time spent with each other.
Obviously, in like 20, 30 years, hoping people having kids and stuff, like, you gotta bring back your kids and show them like what you did, and like show them like, hey, like things like this doesn't just happen to any ordinary person. Like, it's something you have to go get.
You're just around people that you love, and love the people that that are around you. You can do anything, and that's what I want people to know. That's what I want people to take away from this whole run and this experience.
Ben, Connor, Hunter, love you guys, man. You know, we all try to give y'all the way you guys wanted to end off with national championship. Came a little short, but I know this one thing, we gave you one hell of a season.
I want them to know how close-knit we were as a group. We don't have cliques, we don't have best friends, like we crack on one another just like we crack on the next guy. Just kind of, like I was saying, the brotherhood.
It wasn't about winning, losing. It was just about love. Because that's what it was in the locker room. There isn't a guy on that team who wouldn't do anything for any other guy. I don't think there's a closer team in the country. So other teams in the future may be better, win a national championship, or try, or do whatever. But I know for a fact that no team will love each other like this team loved each other.